Hello everybody and welcome to The United Stand, your latest Manchester United transfer news. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is promising more transfers at Manchester United. Some very interesting comments about him coming out last night. We'll also be talking about Grealish demands, Sancho, Wayne Rooney, Ighalo's future, amongst other things, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer talking about Bruno Fernandes. But I want to open up the show with this statement from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that came from the embargoed part of the press conference yesterday. I feel that this squad is going places, that the players are taking on board what we're trying to sell to them. The camaraderie, the effort, the attitude is getting better, and I can see more of me in this team than before. I tweeted Going Places FC last night and I got a bit of stick for it, but I stand by it. We're 14 months in and we're still going places. I, at this point and this juncture, would say this. Manchester United need to deliver now. It's always in the future. We're always in the future. And if you look at the average tenureship of a Premier League manager, when you've been in post 14 months, you should not still be talking about 3 or 4 years in the future or more jigsaw pieces. You've got to deliver now. And Wayne Rooney, we're playing Derby later, Wayne Rooney's come out and said, look, United fans need to be a bit patient, but they need to get Champions League this season and they need to be in the, challenging for titles in the next 2 or 3 years. And yeah, they need more players out and they need more players in. He didn't go as far as what I think he should have done and said, they should be delivering now. I think we're always talking about the future, and I will keep saying Going Places FC because everything's always about the future for United. If you sell a future, the present never happens, does it? And I do get a little bit tired of the players are starting to take on board what we're trying to sell them. 14 months, not 14 days, 14 months. Brendan Rodgers needed 14 days for Leicester to start taking it on board. I mean, look, Lampard's been very inconsistent at Chelsea, but they do play a consistent brand of football. 14 months in and we're still talking about going places. They're starting to take it on board. Maybe, I just think we need to deliver now. Interestingly though, he did talk about more signings and he did speak about Bruno Fernandes, saying that Bruno Fernandes is the fourth piece of the jigsaw puzzle. And he did mention 6 or 7 pieces, which I think we all agree. I don't think there's no dispute that we need to take our time on bringing the right players in. I agree with that. What I disagree with is that the signings mean that we've got to wait to play good football. They're totally separate issues for me. As I said, going places. Where are we going? What is the philosophy? What is the formation? You changed it again last weekend. We've seen 3 or 4 formations this season. Which is the one you want to go with? And he talks about Bruno Fernandes and he said, look, he's the 4th piece of the jigsaw puzzle. You need to be a risk taker at Manchester United. He's got courage. The fans and the club demand that you're a risk taker. It's what we were brought up on under Sir Alex. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because United allowed a story last summer, in the back end of the summer, to go out that they weren't interested in Bruno Fernandes, that it was the Portuguese press. And then there was another story that they didn't like how many risks he takes. And now you've got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with his mouth saying he's a risk taker. We like that about him. You've got to be a risk taker at Manchester United, which totally contradicts that story, which, maybe it didn't come from United in the summer, but it was out there and a lot of people believed it. But if you compare it to United's season this year, if I said to you, do you think United have Manchester United been a risk-taking team this season? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that comes from the coaching to the players. They're not playing risk-taking football. We've had games at Old Trafford where we've not had a shot on target in 70 minutes. So we haven't created that many chances. We have recently, but since Bruno's come in, there has been a change. There has been a risk-taking element. And I think that it's good to hear Solskjaer saying that, but it's sad that it's taken this signing to make this thing happen, because definitely from the first game of the season, I know we won 4-0, but anybody who watched that knows that we could have been 2-0 down at half-time and we were just very, very clinical. But we started the season off with 2 holding midfielders, one of which was Paul Pogba, whose best attributes are going forward. So we've not been a risk-taking side this season. So when Ollie talks about risk-taking, you've got to do it, the fans demand it, the club demand it, well, maybe we should start doing it. And you know what? Actually, to be fair, we are doing it, but we haven't done it for 6 months. And that's why we are on course for our worst ever Premier League season, unless we throw caution to the wind in the next 10 games or so and we just go on the front foot, which I think we will do with Bruno in the team. It's just a shame that we didn't do it before that. Because yes, Ollie's right, we need to be a risk-taking side. We haven't taken risks in probably 6 years. The last manager that we had that was a risk-taker was Sir Alex. Moyes wasn't a risk-taker, Van Gaal wasn't, Mourinho definitely wasn't. Ollie was for 3 months, then became this weird sort of, I'm going to soak up pressure counter-attack sides. You're not, there's your answer. I wish I just said this a minute ago. What is the philosophy that Ollie has shown us this last year? It's been very, very much two holding midfielders, soak up pressure, hit teams on the break. That's not risk-taking. There's nothing risky about sitting back and hitting teams on the break. In fact, it's very negative, if you want a word for it. So, yeah, I hope this mouth that Ollie's talking about with Bruno and risk-taking, I hope we're about to see that. But the encouraging thing is that he's also saying 4 pieces of the puzzle. Bruno's number 4. We need 3 more. We're only about halfway there, and the next 3 pieces of the puzzle will be people like Jadon Sancho, Jack Grealish, and a striker. That's what I believe. So look, I totally get on board that. Rooney said that, we've said that, you've said that, Ollie's saying that. There's no doubt that, you know, as Ollie said, you can't just put 6 or 7 pieces of the puzzle in together. It becomes a mess. We needed to do that. I think at the end of last season when we lost to Cardiff and other games, we were like, sell the whole team and start again. It's not FIFA. You can't do that. But we did need to do that. There are still players that need to go out the door, and there are players that need to come in the door. So it's encouraging, and I think we will be making signings in the summer, and I think we all know that. It's just at what value those signings will be. But look, Solskjaer talking a very good game at the moment, but as we know, actions speak louder than words. I think the last month has been quite exciting watching Manchester United. The previous year before that, pretty much boring, negative, not risk-taking football. So let's see where we go over the next 10 games. But Ollie talking a good fight. Let's see what we can produce. Talking about transfers, Jadon Sancho, there's a story that Dortmund want £120 million for him. What do you think we will pay for Jadon Sancho? I think he's probably... If you think that Ousmane Dembele went to Barcelona for 135 million, and that was 2 or 3 years ago, Jadon Sancho from the same club, Dortmund, having a much better season, I think Dortmund have got every right to be talking around 120 million. I think we can do it for 100, but I just want people to remember that Dembele, on the right wing, went from Dortmund to Barcelona for 135, and Sancho's a better player than Dembele was at Dortmund. So, you know, we've got to be realistic. I heard someone say today, don't give him anything more than 90 million. But there are, unfortunately, recent facts, test cases of where that's happened. So it'd be interesting with that. I think the higher the price helps United in many ways, because we know we've got the financial power if the club are adamant that they're going to get a player. But also, you could spend all your Pogba money on Sancho, which we don't really want to do. But we'll see what happens on that. Grealish apparently wants 150 grand a week. I spoke about that last night. I think that's absolutely fine. Do you think there's a problem with Jack Grealish getting 150 grand a week, considering Juan Mata's on 140? Grealish is now 24, coming up for 25, 150 grand a week. It's probably a little bit more than he's worth, but, you know, I don't really have a problem with that. I really, really don't. Solskjaer talking about Agallo as well, basically saying that between now and the end of the season, it's his audition to get a permanent deal. Do you think Agallo's got any chance of staying at Manchester United beyond the summer? And would you want him to stay at United beyond the summer? I'll be honest and say, if our standards are to try and win a title in the next 3 years, Agallo to me doesn't look like he's good enough. And not even from the last month, because I've been the first one to say he's clearly not match fit yet. But you look at the player that he is, and he doesn't look to me like he's a player that's a top 4 player, and I don't think he ever did. I liked him at Watford. I thought he was a good player at Watford, and I remember United getting linked to him, 5 years ago when he was at Watford, and I was like, yeah, I don't think he's good enough. I certainly don't think he's good enough 5 years later. I think what he is an absolutely brilliant asset. I really love the guy, and I hope he's going to do well for us, but I don't think there is a future deal for Agallo at United in the summer. I think it just suits everybody. He's a Man United fan. He loves being here. We needed a striker. He's already shown his worth when we've needed him. But I don't think long term there's a future in it. Mainly because of his age. I also don't think he'll be ultimately good enough. And thirdly, he's on massive money in China. I mean, he's on 300 grand a week. So is he going to take a pay cut of more than 50%? Because he's not worth 150 grand a week. No way. Not at 30. He's not. He's a Watford striker. That was his ceiling. So you don't pay him 150 grand a week. He's not going to take a 50% pay cut. So I don't think there's a future for Agallo. But I think what Solskjaer is saying is spot on. You've got to run the gauntlet. You've got to lay it down and say, look, there's the opportunity to become a Manchester United player if you want to take it. So we can see what happens with that. Also, of course, he spoke about Bruno Fernandes in relation to what he brings to the team and saying that he won't let anyone down. When I went to watch him, he was absolutely, superb, and it's the leadership, it's the personality. The interesting thing about Bruno Fernandes is that I know that Manchester United weren't going to sign him in January anyway. If Pogba and McTominay stayed fit, they weren't going to sign him. And when Ollie talks about when he went to watch him, I don't think Ollie went to watch Bruno until late December, early January. So again, it shows how urgent that signing became because of the injuries to Pogba and McTominay. And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and I really wanted to get your opinions on it. I pretty much know what your answer is going to be, but when Pogba came back around Christmas time and he got injured straight away again, and McTominay got injured again, we were like, oh my God, we've got no midfield. We're screwed. That's it. Top four's gone. But in hindsight, if I had that opportunity again and somebody said, we can change it, the butterfly effect, McTominay and Pogba don't get injured and they stay fit for the rest of the season, do you want that scenario? I would say no. I would say no, because I know we wouldn't get Bruno that way. So the injuries to Pogba and McTominay, as bad as they were, they allowed us to get this the Bruno Fernandes deal done. So actually, look, you never wish injury on your own players or any player, but it happened, and because it happened, we got Bruno Fernandes. So in a way, that was a positive thing for us, because now McTominay's back, Pogba's back. The results since Bruno have come in have been quite good. And would they have been any better with McTominay and Pogba fit and no Bruno ever coming in? So look, I think that I always keep that in my mind. Bruno Fernandes is only at Manchester United because of the injuries to McTominay and Pogba. And when Ollie talks about going to watch him and being impressed with him being a risk taker, this, that and the other, Ollie only really went to watch him in I think it was early January. He's been scouted for years, but Ollie only went to watch him in early January because we were desperate for a midfielder. Which says a lot about the coaching at United, the scouting at United, that the manager didn't actually go and look at a player that we should have bought last summer until we were desperate. The question with Bruno is, would we have signed him in the summer? If McTominay and Pogba had stayed fit, would we have got Bruno in the summer? Logically, the answer is yes, but it's well known that United had Sporting. It was a one-horse race. Nobody else could go for Bruno in January because they didn't have the money or the requirement to do it. In the summer, more clubs would have gone in for Bruno. There would have been more of a battle for Bruno. Would United have won that battle? I think we would have been in the battle, but would we have won the battle with other clubs? Because other clubs, everybody wants to do their business in the summer. They know what their requirements are. In January, unless you're desperate, like United have been, not many people have got the funds or the requirements to go and do it. In the summer, teams will be rebuilding, and a lot more teams would have been in for Bruno. So we may never, what I'm trying to say is we may never have got Bruno Fernandes if it wasn't for the injuries to McTominay and Pogba, forcing United into a desperate chase to get a midfielder. So, it's funny how it works out, because that player, if we didn't get Bruno Fernandes, I think he's such a good player. I'm hopeful of United's future. Really hopeful. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Talking about our future, we'll be live tonight for the Derby game. Derby County this one. Then the Manchester Derby on Sunday. Join me for that on the watch along. Thanks everyone for watching. Smash a like on the video. Get your comments in below. Lots to talk about. And I'll see you for the watch along later.